this game. So what we have is Caro-Kann defense and exchange variation. Knight c3. Well, knight c3 is not what I usually suggest because it blocked the c pawn. Yeah, so white can play knight f3, and the c pawn can push to c3 or c4, and then knight to c3. So I saw a lot of players like playing the b1 knight, developing d1 knight too early at c3. So black developed the knight, that's quite good. Bishop to f5 and bishop to d3. So we accept exchange. Knight to c6, a3. So this move is stopping knight to b4, I guess. But I don't think black will really play knight b4 because if queen to b5, the knight still need to go back. So a3 is unnecessary. Maybe white should castle. And e6, exchange, knight e5, castle. So knight to b5, and we exchange, take the knight. So there are a lot of piece exchange happening in opening. So the game turned to a very balanced situation. But the thing is, the white king is really slow in castling. So the king is not safe actually. So how should we attack the king? So that is the question. So I can tell, for example, queen to h4, but white could probably block the check. And oh, you know what? Maybe queen to b6. So in this way, white is impossible to castle to the king side, and the king could probably move to the c1, and then we can attack the open semi-open file. So that could be one approach. So queen to b6. Yeah, I think that's the best move. So we can stop white from castling. So if long castle and knight c5 to kick the queen has to protect the knight. So it moved to e2, for example. And then we can probably knight e4 to occupy the center, threatening knight f2, and then move another knight, and also e6. So I think black is better than white. So we play queen h4, and white, yeah, that's a good move. So when the queen are traded, so the disadvantage of the center king actually become a good thing because the king doesn't need to castle anymore. It can stay at the center to, for example, defend the c file or move it closer to control the center. So attack the knight, and yeah, this trade is really good because the d6 knight is really annoying otherwise. So the game became really balanced again. g4, rook c8. I like this move. So it's not good to exchange the h3 rook because it doesn't do any good for us, and the white will have the pawn going to a better position. The pawn will be connected with g4 again, so we can keep the control the c file. Rook d3. So white keeps asking for piece exchange. So now we have the king pawn endgame. So in this case, I think it's quite balanced. So the king position are really fair. So g5, yeah. Let's see where the game ends up. So I think in theory the game should end up as a draw. So white pushing the pawn f5. Yeah, we take that. That's good. And f6. Well, that's a problem. So in this case, so I think what the black should do is not to like help your opponent produce a passed pawn, because white has the pawn position very high, higher than the black pawns. So if white has a passed pawn, the pawn is easier to be promoted or getting closer. The pawn is closer to the background. So we also have a passed pawn, but the pawn is really far away from the h1. So we need to just maybe play g6. So white is not possible to create a pass pawn, but or king to d7 is also okay. So yeah, I think a draw will be fair for both sides. So f6 is the problem is the white take with the g pawn, we have to take an e6. White has a very very strong like protected pawn, and our king will be stuck here forever. We cannot get rid of the pawn, and the white king can go from here to take the pawn. So for example, let's do something like this. If you play king to g7, what white can do? White can actually, play a forcing. E4 is also okay. But king f, king h6, and what should like king e7, king g7. The f7, a6 pawn will be captured. So white can also play like, for example, king f8, king g, yeah, like a waiting move, triangulation, and the king go back, we can push forward. Yeah, it's basically the same thing. We can win the f6, and we can have the pawn promote. So the f6 is a really bad move. So white doesn't take the chance. That's unfortunate. So if we play e6 again, so the problem is black have connected pawns. So white cannot move the king to closer to any of the pawns. And king h5, and then the black king can move to h6, sorry, f6. And then, yeah, so that's how black can break this connected pawns. That's super important. Yeah, so black has up one pawn, and that's super critical in the king's pawn endgame. Yeah, once the d4 pawn is captured, black is clearly winning. So I think the learning for this one is, I think black did really well in the opening until queen h4. So queen h4, we traded the queens, where the game turned into a very balanced position. So queen b6, keeping the queen on the board, and also controlling g1 is a very good move. When the game turned into endgame, it was very balanced for a very long period of time until like f6. So f6 is a mistake, and we need to be aware of that. And white doesn't take the grab the opportunity. So yeah, so that's the learning.